Okay, so thank you. And at this time, I will now hand over to the Consul-General of Jamaica, Kurt Davis.
Thank you, Madam Consul, and a very warm welcome to the Jamaican Consulate, of course, to all our media houses who are here. We really value the support that you are giving to us being able to get this message out on what's going on with Jamaica and the kind of support that is needed as we tackle the impact of this hurricane. So we really want to start out with just expressing how grateful we are and how thankful we are for the interest and the support that we have seen pouring out from the community here, not just of Jamaicans, but of friends of Jamaica right across Canada. We've seen outreach from so many persons who are so concerned about what has taken place in Jamaica and are jumping on board to see how they can also be a part of helping to come to a resolution, helping the people who are facing the devastation and the catastrophe in Jamaica just now. It has been about a week and a couple of days since the impact of Hurricane Melissa on Jamaica. We all know the deep details of the hurricane, a Category 5 hurricane, which lingered long off the south coast of Jamaica and then made a sharp right turn, traversing Jamaica in a south to north direction, causing catastrophic damage across the country. But in particular in the western end of Jamaica, which most people may not know is part of our deep agricultural and farming belt. So that's a big impact that has taken place there. We unfortunately are able to confirm fatalities up to this point of about 32 in Jamaica. 32 fatalities have been confirmed. And as the authorities go in, we are finding reports that that number unfortunately keeps growing. And there are reports that some additional deaths took place, but we are not yet reported based on the findings of the authorities as yet. So that is one of the most unfortunate parts, the loss of life that has taken place because of this hurricane that has hit Jamaica. We know there are more than 116,000 buildings completely damaged, tens of thousands of homes destroyed altogether. And when I give a number like that, what I want you to take from that is not just the building that is gone, but this is the impact on the people who live in this building. And so we have thousands of people who are currently in shelters or taking shelter with family members, or some are still yet to find themselves in a shelter situation. Many roofs were destroyed or blown off is a simple way that we put it. And so you do have persons who are still at their premises, but they have no actual full shelter. So they are at the whim of the elements. And so that is something that is very, very disturbing for us, and that we're taking action to try to solve. We have our schools, hospitals, other public infrastructure which are severely damaged in and around the western end of Jamaica. A lot of persons may have heard about some of the specific hospitals, such as the Savannah Mar Hospital, Black River Hospital in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland respectively, the Noel Holmes Hospital in Hanover, also terribly impacted, as well as the Falmouth Hospital in Trelawney. And as you can imagine, with hospital and clinics damaged significantly, this is going to have a bad impact on the provision of health care to vulnerable communities. Schools as well across the western end of the country. A lot of damage to a lot of schools, not just high schools, primary schools, private schools, basic schools, all levels of schools. And so education has been already disrupted. There are some schools on the eastern side of the country, in the capital of Kingston and so forth, which are reopening now. But as you can imagine, those in the western side are not able to reopen. It's not something that even the population is able to deal with at this point. Even if you were physically able to reopen schools, not at a stage where schooling could continue. And that is one of the areas of emphasis that the government is starting to look at. How are we going to deal with that loss of learning and how to recover learning for the students who have been impacted? And one of the things I'd also flag when we talk about schools, a lot of children who are on government assistance, their main meals are provided when they go to school. So if there's no school taking place, you can imagine what that situation is going to mean for food security and for hunger. And I'll come back to that a little more when we speak about some of the needs and asks that we have further to this. We have economic impact starting to be measured as assessments are going out. We know that that is looking somewhere between $6 and $7 million. That's US dollars of impact expected at this point so far, and that is going to be about a 30% hit on the GDP of Jamaica, resulting in an economic decline of somewhere between 8 and 13%. Now, for those of you who are in the know about what Jamaica had been doing up to this point, we had been making a lot more progress on our macroeconomic stabilities and positioning the country to step into a growth and productivity phase. So if you are looking at this impact from Hurricane Melissa resulting in a decline of 8 to 13%, you can imagine what the knock-on effects are going to be as we look at the social and economic infrastructure that needs to be provided for people, regularly speaking, outside of the context of coming back from a disaster. So we are going to be down in the hole quite a bit on the economic decline point. But the silver lining on that cloud has to do with the efforts that the government had been making in advance to try to prepare the country as much for the impact of some kind of disaster. Many persons would have heard about the catastrophe bond that existed, that was pretty much designed by Jamaica and became something accepted in a number of countries, especially the Caribbean, have signed into that. And so we are fortunate in this particular case that we will be able to draw on the catastrophe bond to get liquid resources in to start doing some of the things that need to be done in the rebuild phase that is going to be needed. And of course, we also had the National Emergency Operational Response Plan, which is what is being rolled out to deal with the first responders, clearing off roads, clearing off roadways, bringing food to people, getting persons into shelters, getting the infrastructure back into a place of operation. So data and communications, which were down, the electricity grid, which was down, all of the water and sewage treatment, which was down, that emergency response plan speaks to getting those services back up and running. And for the most of the country, most of those services are back. But in the hard hit, devastated areas, it's still greatly out. We do know we have a number of persons, for example, who will say they haven't heard from their cousin or their aunt or their mother, and they can't find them and they can't get them, and no data is there, no Digicel, no WhatsApp, no nothing. So it's very difficult to get through. So one of the priorities is getting communications back up and running. The government has been able to count on the support of a lot of international partners, and we express our thanks to so many international partners from across the world, including Canada, which have come to our support at this particular point in different kinds of ways, whether with equipment, supplies, funding, expertise, personnel. We've had that kind of support, not just from countries, but also very importantly from international NGOs as well. Humanitarian response organizations have jumped on board to come and give assistance. In fact, I give an anecdote that the first relief flight that landed in Jamaica was from an organization called Samaritan's Purse. So that wasn't a government entity. It was an NGO, was the first one on the ground with their plane with food supplies and all kinds of things. And we had World Central Kitchen, which was next right behind them. And the different ones have been coming in and providing support. One of the things that the government has done, because now we know what tends to happen when there's a big humanitarian crisis and funding is required, and it can get very dicey. And I know that globally speaking, a number of persons are concerned about legitimacy, accountability, ensuring efficiency in the delivery of support and assistance. And so to try to avoid persons, popping up with every kind of scam, the government created a platform called supportjamaica.gov.jm, supportjamaica.gov.jm. And on that platform, you can get information, you can get accurate details, you can submit incident reports and, situations that are there. You can submit for volunteering, and you can also do your donations and funding directly into the National Relief Fund right there in a safe and secure manner. But here in Canada, we are, of course, working in collaboration with the Jamaican High Commission in Ottawa, and are partnering with key stakeholders, some of whom are here with us this evening or this afternoon, to ensure that we are coordinating and supporting the relief effort that is coming up out of Canada as a country, but also out of Canada as a population. And that population, very importantly, includes a large swath of Jamaican Canadians and persons of Jamaican and Caribbean descent who are keenly interested in providing support to family back home. And so we are doing a lot of that work to collaborate and coordinate to ensure that that donation process goes through smoothly. And on that particular note, I also want to express a word of thanks to the coordination team, which we were able to create at the Consulate with some community partners, some of whom are here today helping us to organize and plan and pull everything out together. And I can tell you, all of those persons have come out voluntarily. So where we have created drop points and centers for things to be done, these are all persons just out of the goodness of their heart, giving of themselves, their time, their resources to help coordinate and ensure that all of this is going to go together well for the people of Jamaica. And we don't take it very lightly when we have that kind of support. We also have support from our various corporate players as well, who we have been able to count on. I see in the room today, Jamaica National, JN Money and JN Bank are here. JN is one of our major supporters in our diaspora community. So thank you so much, JN, for always being there. We have Grace Foods Canada, which has jumped on board. We barely even asked, and they were ready and willing to help us with all of the things that we need to do, from Grace Kennedy in Jamaica, the Grace Foods, which is the branch right here. And of course, as we said, we have Atlas Shipping, which is here, who has done a very, very generous offer to be able to ship all these items and donations that we're doing back to Jamaica through Atlas Shipping and their facilities. So thank you so very much to our partners on that front. I don't want to take a lot of time, but I just want to flag a couple of things that persons can know and need to know in terms of the relief effort. We have donations that a lot of persons are interested in doing. And for donations, we have a needs list that was created. It can also be found on the supportjamaica.gov.jm site. That is a comprehensive needs list that the government would have pre-prepared, knowing what the impacts of a hurricane would be, and it is evolving as the needs assessment continues. But outside of that major national needs list, what we have been doing here in Canada is concentrating on certain urgently needed relief supplies. And those are items such as basic necessities, bottled water, non-perishable foods, baby formula, hygiene products, sanitizers and wipes and bed linens, towels, those kinds of things that people are going to need immediately just to survive. We're looking at shelter type items such as tarpaulins and ropes and, small tools and such that people can start to put things back together. I said energy was down, so we are looking at things like generators, solar banks, and those kind of things that will also help with that front. And also on the medical front, we are looking at first aid kits and, certain kind of medical equipment that we need for urgent action. One of the things, though, is that we are not able at this point to take clothing. We are not able at this point to take clothing through the response pipeline that we are working on, because we don't have the bandwidth to do the sorting and setting up of clothing that would actually be coming in from the public, some of which we started getting, and we have discovered that we can't actually use them and they can't be sent, and now we have to figure out what's to be done with it and how to do it, and that's taking all the time away from actually packing urgently needed things that can get sent off with Dr. Singh and his services. So we are urging the public not to bring clothing to the drop-off sites that we have been creating. However, there are other partners who are doing clothing, and we'll be able to refer you to other partners who are doing clothing, and they have the bandwidth and the volunteer teams to be able to sort clothing and get it all set, because the people in Jamaica do need clothing. There are people who ended up with just the clothes on their back after the hurricane blew away everything. So we definitely want to do that particular one. Now, where to do the drop-offs? We have a lot of persons who have started drop-off centers, drop-off sites, and so forth. And so if you have a drop-off site near you, you can try to utilize those. But what we've been able to do is right across Canada, we've been able to create drop-off sites, contact different partners, and ensure that they are actually going to be able to process things in a way that is legitimate and is actually going to get to Jamaica. And we have drop-off sites all the way from across Ontario, in Ottawa, many drop-off sites there right across the Greater Toronto area. Our prime drop-off site, I'd like to say, is at the Jamaican Canadian Association, 995 Arrow Road here in Toronto, and they are operating daily, I believe, except Sunday. And you can go in, drop your items off, all these non-perishable stuff and urgently needed basic supplies. But we have drop-off sites in Brampton as well. We have in Richmond Hill. We have over in Scarborough. We have in Mississauga, Newmarket, Ajax for Durham County. We have in Little Jamaica right here. We have drop-off sites in Windsor, Ontario. We have drop-off sites in London, in Niagara Falls, in Hamilton. Where am I leaving out, team? Waterloo as well. I said Hamilton already. Okay, great. So Kitchener and Niagara. We have Montreal. So folks, we have drop-off sites all over. Everywhere that we have a Jamaican community, we know that they are able to support us with doing that, and we are able to do that particular one. And I want to thank all these partners for making their facilities available to do the drop-offs, to collect the items, to secure the items, to sort the items, to get them here so that we can get them down to Jamaica. A very, very important response right there. So you may ask, well, suppose one of your drop-off sites is not there, and can I become a drop-off site? We are not able to add into our particular network new drop-off sites at this point. We are executing the ones that exist right now and getting those rolling and efficient. But what we encourage persons to do is to validate, check on, and see about these drop-off sites that you might see popping up. If you don't feel it looks legit, don't trust it. Use one of the ones that has been set out there. If you don't know the person and they have sent you a notice saying, oh, we're collecting funds for Jamaica, you never see this person from your barn, as we say in Jamaica, never hear about them yet, maybe you don't bother with that one, right? Use your gut feeling. I know people know when something look fishy, don't it? And you say, how this man does pop up, or who give me a number? Don't send them your money unless you know. Don't send your money to anyone you do not know if it's not one of the official collection points. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop right there with most of that information, which is key and pertinent. No, I think there's one other thing I wanted to raise: volunteers. We've been getting a lot of interest in persons who want to volunteer. They want to do something. You know, you have seen all of this tragedy and you say, what can I do? We have two particular methods that you can work on. The one here in Canada, if you would like to volunteer to help with all of this kind of work, to help the different organizations who are doing the collecting and the all of that part, we have a sheet that you can fill out. If you go onto our website or if you go onto our social media pages, you can get the link. You can click that, enter your details to volunteer to be a part of this team that's trying to work on getting items down to Jamaica. If you want to volunteer in Jamaica, so for example, you say, I am a trauma nurse and I want to go and spend 3 weeks and support this new pop-up hospital in Black River. You can go on to the supportjamaica.gov website. You can enter your details under the volunteer tab, put what you can do, what you'd like to do, how you'd like to help, and the emergency operating team will graft you into what they're doing and try to get it down there. And this is pretty much right in this particular phase of the work that we're doing, this emergency rapid response phase. We know that we're going to move into another phase soon where we're going to be having persons volunteering to help with rebuilding and all of that part. And we may be starting to think out how we can create projects that persons can volunteer volunteer to be on. I know Food for the Poor and some of the other partners have projects that they will be doing. So I'm sure Geraldine will speak a little bit to that in terms of getting supporters who want to go in and make physical in-person responses at that particular time. So that was it, and I encourage you, if you have questions and so forth, to ask them after we conclude. But I think I'm gonna ask our first partner, Ms. Geraldine Isaac, who is the Executive Director of Food for the Poor Canada, to come just to share what Food for the Poor Canada is doing, what would be some of the ways that you can support the work that they're doing so that we can continue to make a great impact on Jamaica. I have to big up Food for the Poor Canada because before we even started saying what we're gonna do, Food for the Poor Canada was already starting to do, and many of the items that they have raised and stuff are already on the ground in Jamaica. They were there like day 3, day 2. Once the airports were open, their things were there, and partnering up with Food for the Poor in Jamaica to do the work. So Geraldine, if you could just tell us a bit of what you're doing and how persons can help.
Thank you.
This press briefing coverage was brought to you by As Told by Canadian Immigrants, the trusted space where newcomers and immigrants get real stories, practical strategies, and honest guidance about building life in Canada. Tune in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and LinkedIn for more conversations that turn confusion into clarity and information into action, because immigration isn't just paperwork. It's a journey, it's a process, and we're here to help you thrive, not just survive.